You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today, man, we have another amazing show for y'all. We're going to talk to an amazing guest today, Miss Nacny Pickard. She is a certified integrative coach through the Ford Institute for Transformational Training and the Levin Life Coach Academy. Man, she has a lot of great things to be talking about, including her recently dropped book, Bigger, Better, Braver, Conquer Your Fears, Embrace Your Courage, and Transform Your Life. She has an amazing story that we'll probably talk a little bit later in the interview about her visit to Thailand and something she did there that I thought was pretty amazing. But first and foremost, I want to welcome you, Nacny, to the show. So how you doing?
Thanks for having me. And I'm doing great.
So before we dive deeply into your new book, congratulations to the new one, Bigger, Better, and Braver. Let's talk a little bit about you and a little bit about yourself prior to the book and all the coaching that you've done.
Okay, so prior to my book and prior to all the coaching that I'm doing, I owned a personal training gym and I was married and raising my kids. And when my marriage fell apart after 26 years, basically I fell apart. I didn't have the tools or the strategies. I was really blown away. I was out of my comfort zone. I was living in fear and I was living as the victim in my story for a really long time. Eventually, that's what led me to get a coach and start the process of healing my own heart. And I've been a coach for the last 10 years. So I've added certification after certification because every time, somebody comes to me with a new issue, I want to be certified in that area. So I probably have 7 or 8 different certifications, but all of my work is in shadow work. So all of my work is about uncovering the disempowering beliefs that are hidden in our subconscious that we're not aware of, that come from our childhood. But as adults, they just keep us playing small. So I help people uncover those beliefs so that they can live the life that they're actually hoping to be living.
And you hold a bachelor's in psychology and master's in education. And you touched on the reason why you had this passion to do this. When you started, you touched on the fitness business that you had, because did that play a role in your journey with working with clients and their personal goals and shaping how you coach today?
Yes and no. I obviously like helping people. So at that point, I was helping people from the outside in, and now I help people from the inside out. But if you come to me for holistic lifestyle, obviously I still use all my tools and strategies for working out and eating healthy and when you sleep and what you eat and how you eat and everything that goes along with a holistic lifestyle. But I've gone much further into helping people redefine their life, not just their bodies. So it was a stepping stone, really. I don't know. I mean, I think that as a personal trainer, everyone came to me with their issues, and I was always welcome. I always welcomed their issues and trying to help them. But it's really a very different career than the one I have now.
When people are living through the routine, it's almost like a zombie effect. It's just get up.
Autopilot, yeah.
Yeah, autopilot. And they're just going through the routine and just doing this A, B, C, D, et cetera, and repeating that for years. How then, those who are listening to this right now, get out, like you just said moments ago, autopilot, and just start living in the now?
Well, there's a good question, and there's a couple of different things involved here. So, I mean, we're all on autopilot. We wouldn't be able to drive a car or do half the things we do if we weren't on autopilot. But emotional autopilot is what you want to stay away from. So the first step is recognizing where you're in it. So, where are you spending endless amount of time, over mindlessly eating, shopping, surfing the web, exercising? What are the things that you're doing just without really understanding? Or have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why aren't I happier? Or where in my life am I not happy? Where in my life do I need more boundaries that I don't have? And those are all the kinds of questions that we have to ask ourselves so that we can get out of autopilot. And then when you see where the areas are that you're in it, then you can take action steps in any area. So if I'm mindlessly eating and I'm gaining weight and I'm not paying attention, then I have to say to myself, okay, so what are the things I can do so that I'm not going to be mindless? Maybe I'm going to say I'm not going to eat after 8:00 at night, or I'm going to stop drinking, or I'm going to, I'm not going to eat in front of the TV, and I'm only going to eat when I'm aware of what I'm doing, or I'm not going to eat when I'm shopping in the grocery store. Like, you have to have some control over what you're doing and when you do it, so that you can recognize where you need the help. If you don't even know you have a problem, you're lost. So start asking yourself, am I doing this for myself? Am I doing this to please others? Am I doing this because of, if you're stuck and you're not as happy, or there are things that you want in your life over and over again and you're not getting them, that's because you have these limiting beliefs that I've been talking about, these unconscious commitments to those beliefs that are keeping you playing small. And I'm happy to give you examples if you need more clarification.
Oh, definitely. Because when you're saying all this, it's screaming out just being comfortable and too content versus reaching outside of your comfort zone and stretching yourself to do new things.
Yes, it's getting outside your comfort zone. I mean, a lot of people live within the confines of their fears. They wish they were braver. They think successful people are just braver than they are. And that's not actually true. So nobody is ever living in a fearless state. Those of us who are successful have chosen to take our fears and move forward anyway. So I have faith that everything happens for a reason. So if I fall, I'm falling forward. I'm moving, I'm taking action, and I can use all of my failures to move forward, to look at them and say, okay, so that didn't work out the way I hoped it would. What can I take from this so that I will be more successful the next time? And what worked and what didn't work, and move on. You don't just, pick up your toys and go home. And those who are afraid, so many people have fear of failure, or they have fear of success, or they don't want to feel shame if they don't succeed. But don't you feel shame for not even trying? Like, to me, the not trying is so disempowering. I mean, it just shuts you down, and it takes away your confidence. You become confident. You become confident through competence. And you become competent by trying over and over again until you become competent. So I want people who are afraid to understand, number one, get help, find somebody that can help you uncover those disempowering beliefs. So they sound like, I'm not good enough. I'm broken. I need to control everything to be safe. I need to be perfect to be loved. My voice doesn't matter. My needs don't matter. I'm unlovable. I'll never be chosen. These are all beliefs that come out of our childhood, and they are made in an instant. Something happens. We're not emotionally intelligent enough to understand it. And without even knowing it, we give it a meaning. And then we It rules our operating system. I had the belief I wasn't safe alone, and I didn't know I had it, but I did. And then I made a commitment to myself. That's the underlying commitment to never be alone. So as a child, these beliefs are made to keep us safe. As a child, it did keep me safe. But as a grown woman, it stopped keeping me safe and it kept me living really small. I didn't travel alone. I didn't go to restaurants or movies alone. I didn't feel happy if I wasn't in partnership with somebody else. And that in itself is, very disempowering and keeps you living small.
Once again, this time Refocus Radio, talking to our guest today, Nacny Pickard. And when you are in your book, Bigger, Better, Braver, you mentioned about tools that you've been able to use to overcome, what we just touched on, comfort zone, but also to force that actual change. And would you say is that change of behavior, or how would you break that down for the audience?
I think the first step is the beliefs and the fears. So where were they formed? How were they formed to help you? How did they keep you safe as a child? What are they costing you now? That's the first step, because then it's sort of like an onion and you're uncovering one layer after another. You start to see, oh God, that makes so much sense. I understand why I have that belief and why I'm living out those actions. But now as a conscious adult, I don't have to believe that. Like, just because we have thoughts doesn't make those thoughts true. They're just thoughts. We can choose not to give them power. We can choose not to let them rule our life, and we can choose different actions. So for me personally, I have used fear as a motivating force for change. Anything that I'm afraid, that I'm asked to do, that I'm afraid to do, is a signal for me that I need to do it. That it's growth is going to be on the other side of the very thing that my imposter syndrome voice is saying, oh, you're not big enough for that. You can't do that. That's for other people. Well, if I listen to that voice, if the listeners that right now listen to that voice, we never will change. We will never go after the prize that we want. We will never be living the authentic life that we hope to be living. And we'll be playing small. We'll stay on autopilot and we won't make any changes in our life.
And that sounds so good. And I'm sure people are like, man, I wish it was that easy to do. So when people are taking that first step, how do you guide them as far as taking the action steps to actually do it? Don't just think happy thoughts and all that good stuff, but just actually having these actual habits that you can practice daily that get you better as far as going for those challenges and not backing down from them.
You have to chunk them down to really small steps. You have to teach yourself that your word is golden and that you can be successful. So, for example, you want to lose 20 pounds. Let's say we're going to start with 3 pounds. And let's say you haven't exercised in 10 years. Well, don't tell yourself you're going to exercise 7 times next week. Tell yourself you're going to exercise 2 times next week. And then make sure you do those 2 times. And if you do 3 or 4, that's great. But I'd rather people chunk it down so that they can be successful, because success grows on itself. You need to learn that you can trust yourself, that your word is golden, and that you can be successful, not every single time. But if you chunk it down and make bite-sized steps, there's that saying about how do you eat an elephant? One chunk at a time. 1 bite at a time. It's the same thing. You need to be able to do small steps. And what happens is people go after big goals and then they're not successful. And then they fail. And then they're like, well, I told you, I knew I couldn't do it. So it's like You have to teach yourself. It's just like a muscle in the gym that you're working out. You have to teach yourself that you can do it. And if you can't hire a coach who will keep you accountable, ask a friend. See if you can tell a friend, this is what I'm telling myself I'm going to do this week. Would it be okay if I check in with you or you check in with me in a couple of days so that I have somebody that I'm also being accountable to? Because if I'm just going to be accountable to myself, I know I'm not going to stick with it.
And part of your book, Bigger, Better, and Braver, after it says conquer your fears, it says embrace your courage. I like that because sounds to me, and also what you said moments ago, is also not just being honest with yourself, but being committed to the task. In other words, don't even look at anything else, because that's going to be another distraction that's going to keep you from actually not fulfilling, but actually follow through with what it is you're trying to plan to better your life. What do you say to that?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. That is it. Keep your eye on the goal and just don't overshoot. And if you don't know what your disempowering beliefs are, I have a lot of exercises in my books. You don't have to hire a coach, which is why I wrote the book, because you can't just think. You're not going to be able to answer those questions for yourself by just thinking, because if we all could do that, then we would do it and nobody would need a shadow coach. But you can't, but you can do it following the exercises in my book, because I take you through the same internal processes that I take my clients through. So you will be able to unfold what you're not aware of that's keeping you stuck. And then when you figure out what those disempowering beliefs are, you give yourself a new empowering belief, because once that belief comes out of the subconscious into the conscious mind, it loses its power. You're like, oh God, I see where that came from. I understand, but as an adult, I don't need that belief anymore. My voice does matter. My needs do matter. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of being chosen. I'm worthy of a raise. I'm worthy for asking for the raise. That's a whole big part of it. Self-worth and net worth are very tightly connected, because if you don't think you're worthy, then you don't charge what you should be charging. You do things for free. You don't ask for the raise. You don't speak up in a meeting. You play small in every area of your life, and you stay stuck.
An example that you traveled in 2017 in Thailand and Vietnam, and you undertook a activity that was a challenge for you. Can you tell that story real quick to our audience?
Sure. Well, because I had just uncovered my shadow belief that I wasn't safe alone, my actionable steps to help me move beyond my fears was to start traveling alone. So I actually took 2 separate bike trips. One was to Thailand and one was to Vietnam. And then 6 months later, I trained. So those trips were part of just my training of getting ready, of being able to travel alone. And I went and I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, which is 19,341 feet. And it was 8 nights sleeping outside in tents in Africa. So it was a big personal challenge, and physically, mentally, spiritually. And I was 61 years old when I did it. So that was my bigger, better, braver moment. And that's what I ask people, what's your Kilimanjaro? That was mine. Yours might be moving to another city, or getting married, or getting divorced, or having a child by yourself, or changing careers, starting your own business. All of these things are your personal Kilimanjaro. And that's what I want people to start figuring out. Wow, what will it look like if I live bigger, better, and braver?
That sounds awesome, because when you put in perspective, our history is basically whatever we decided today. And we can only write in history what we have done, not what we thought. And no one wants to read a book on someone who's just thinking something. And they usually want to read a book because they've done something and observed something, and now they're sharing that result with the world, or if you will, another person.
Correct.
And you mentioned earlier in the episode about having someone that can keep you accountable. Is it possible that the individual can keep themselves accountable by just being committed to the simple things in life? Or is that a different thing?
No, I'm not going to say they can't, but I am going to say that it's really difficult because we all have gotten used to telling ourselves we're going to do something and backing down. Oh, I'm going to meditate every day, or I'm going to lose 10 pounds, or, I'm not going to call my ex again, or any of these things. We tell ourselves all the time, and then we forget about it. We don't even remember we made the promise to ourselves. So number one, you can write it down, because something you write down is now a real plan. It becomes a map versus just something that's in your head. So that is one way to be accountable. But honestly, it works better when you get an accountability partner, because we're just, as humans, it's part of our humanity to promise things to ourselves and not follow through.
You also have courses that are available. Can you touch on the course that's related to the book? And also you have a career strategy course.
Yeah. So I have a couple of levels beyond my book. So the first thing you do is you buy my book. And then I have an evergreen course I think it's like $45, and it's all online. You own it. You can listen to it 1,000,000 times. There's a workbook, and there's 12 audio tapes and lessons that go with the book. And then I also do Zoom groups. So if people get together with 5 or 6 or 8 people, or they sign up, on my website to be part of the next group, I do that same thing where they get the workbook, but it's also 12 weeks of group Zoom coaching. And then the other course that you were talking about is tips and strategies and tips for living your most purposeful life. And that's on Gen Connect You. And that's actually a new program. It's geared for women in business, entrepreneurs, and it's all about setting healthy boundaries for yourself and at work, and then all of the same concepts of bigger, better, braver, but it's really around the working woman.
And with that, I want to say once again, listen to Untitled Focus Radio, talking to our guest, Nacny Pickard. And when you are in this journey, building not just your life, but you're at the part of life where you're actually helping others build theirs. What's the most rewarding part of being able to know that what you are doing, your gifts and talents, are transforming lives outside of yourself?
What do I love the most about it? Are you asking me?
Yes. Like what do you get most out of that, knowing that what you're doing?
Yeah, that's actually what I'm passionate about. I think uncovering the exact fears and beliefs that are keeping people stuck so that they can move forward is so rewarding for me. I help so many people, and that's a joy. That makes me feel good about me as well as feeling good for them.
Once again, go to our website, NacnyPickardLifeCoach.com. And before we let you go, after the person reads your awesome book, Bigger, Better, and Braver, and they check out your website and they want to connect with you, what's the best way that they can contact you and get more resources from you?
Well, I offer a free call to anybody who wants it, a free discovery call to see if coaching with me would be good for them and good for me, whether we're a good fit or not. The link for that is also on my website, but they can also just email me at nancy@nancypickardlifecoach.com.
Once again, listen to Untitled Focus Radio and listen to our special guest for today, Nacny Pickard. You can go to her awesome website, NacnyPickardLifeCoach.com, and get her book, Bigger, better and braver. I want to say thank you, Nancy, for not just sharing your story, but also giving us great insight on today's episode.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I Am Refocused Radio is brought to you by Foo 4 Star and Holy Crab. Foo 4 Star is a family-owned Asian restaurant in San Antonio, Texas. We have been a local favorite for Asian cuisine for over 10 years. With nothing but full smiles and fast service, you'll be leaving satisfied. Come on in for some authentic Vietnamese food. Holy Crab is one-of-a-kind Cajun Creole-style seafood restaurant located in Universal City, Texas. We offer traditional seafood items as well as chicken and steak. We also offer seafood boils. Come give us a try. You won't be disappointed. You can find these two eateries in Universal City, Texas at 2921 Pat Booker Road.